Hi everyone. Today we will discuss about fire extinguishers. This is very important topic. After this presentation, you will be able to understand the types of fire extinguisher and the correct method of using fire extinguisher. So you can train your workers, your co-workers on site. Before moving to start fire extinguishers, the main topic, the first thing we must understand the basics of fire. There are many definitions of fire, so you can access from Google or whatever, but the simplest definition which I have noted here, fire, burning or combustion basically is a chemical reaction between fuel and oxygen and release energy in the form of heat, light and smoke products. So here fuel, the substance which is burning or a flammable substance. So fuel means which contain carbon and hydrogen, so basically hydrocarbons. Oxygen is always available in the air, so 21% of oxygen is available in the air. Here question arises, so many people thinking that oxygen is burning, but oxygen does not burn itself, it only supports the combustion. For example, we have oxygen in air, okay, and we have a match or lighter. When we strike a match, so the oxygen which is available in air, the atmosphere, it will burn? No, it will not burn. So it's very clear, if it burn, then whole oxygen in the atmosphere will burn by striking a match. So it's very clear that oxygen only support the combustion. Fire triangle. For something to catch fire, all of the following things must be present. So fire depends upon three things: oxygen, fuel and heat. Oxygen coming from air, fuel like solid fuel, liquid, gases. For example, petrol, diesel, kerosene. In solid we have a wood or gas itself burning, methane. Heat, basically the source of ignition. So source of ignition could be match, could be a lighter, friction, electrical source, any hot surface, so that will play a role of source of ignition. If these three things are present, then fire will continue or fire will start. But if any one of the things is removed, like we remove oxygen from the fire triangle, from the fire, you will see the fire will stop. So here fire ceases off, it will never continue, it will stop completely. So triangle is not complete. So you just take away any one of these things and you will see the fire will put out or it will go out. Fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers are basically the active fire protection device that are used to extinguish or put out, control small fires in emergency situation. So we can say the fire extinguisher are the first line of defense. They can only control small fires. Here you can note in your mind that fire cylinder, we can only control the small fires. But if the fire is large or very big fire, we cannot control. We need assistance from fire professionals. So fire cylinder can only control small fires. Remember, you do not have to put yourself in danger. There are two main types of fire extinguishers. One is a store type fire extinguisher and second one Cottage Type fire extinguisher. Let's see. Here I have pasted two pictures. This is Cottage Type and this one is a store type. So the difference between them is very clear. In Cottage Type fire extinguisher, the extinguish media, or we can say the extinguish agent, separately stored. In chamber there is another material, in cylinder body there is another material. So when we push the knob, the material coming out from here and it will mix in this with this material or react with this material. Due to the reaction there will be pressure, the pressure will develop and carbon dioxide or other material that will come out from this hose to extinguish the fire. Like for example, inside the fire extinguisher there is a sodium bicarbonate, and here this is a H2SO4. So when they combine with each other, then sodium sulfate will produce, and carbon dioxide, due to pressure, it also produced, and some sort of water will also produced inside the cylinder. So here the second one is store type fire extinguisher. In store type fire extinguisher, the material, the fire extinguishing media, is poured inside the body, and it is pressurized by some sort of other gases like nitrogen. If we pour the material, powder, anything else, we pressurize with the nitrogen. Nitrogen is an inert material, it cannot react with that powder. So it just we pressurize, we use nitrogen only to pressurize the cylinder. So that is a store type, and this is common. This is commonly used all over the site, and on our side you can see these type of fire extinguishers. Fire extinguisher parts. So you have to aware your workers, and you have to show them physically this fire extinguisher. The fire extinguisher is available with you. So this is the handle, okay, and this is pressure gauge, and there is a seal or locking pin, okay, and this is called as a hose. This is nozzle, this is cylinder body, this is plate, data on the plate. Here there's some information is given, and this is, as I told, pressure gauge. Fire extinguisher importance. It's very important to use the correct type of fire extinguisher. If we can't use the correct fire extinguisher, then the matter becomes so worse, or we can say it could mean the difference between suffering minor loss and major one as well. You must know the class of fire involved and the correct type of fire extinguisher. So now we will discuss about what fire extinguishers do. Basically, we are going to discuss about the modes of extinction of fire. So the fire extinguishers eliminate extreme heat or oxygen. Without heat or oxygen, the fire will pass out or go out. We already discussed in previous slides about fire triangle. So if we remove any one of the thing from fire triangle, the fire will cease off, the fire will never continue. So extinction by this process, if we remove oxygen, we call as a smothering. If we remove heat, extinction by this process is called as a cooling. If we remove fuel, so extinction by this process is called as a starvation. Now we will discuss about types of fire. There are 5 classes of fire. Here the names are given: class A, B, C, D, K. Class A contain combustible material, wood, paper, cloth, and other ordinary materials. Class B contain flammable liquids and combustible liquids: gasoline, oil, paint, diesel, naphtha, jet fuel. These are the example for class B fires. And class C contain electrical equipments, energized equipments, electrical items. So when there is a fire on electrical items, we will categorize in class C fires. Class D, all combustible metals and flammable metals comes in the category of class D fires. For example, zirconium, potassium, magnesium, can say sodium, titanium, they are all considered in class D fires. Class K only contain cooking media. When there is a fire on cooking media, or like oil, either it's fat oil, either it's fat or vegetable or animal oil. So when there is a fire on cooking oil, we will consider in class K fires. So now there are different type of fire extinguisher. We discuss 5 class of fires, so definitely there should be 5 types of fire extinguishers. So let's discuss about the types of fire extinguishers. Number 1, water type fire extinguishers. So water type fire extinguisher, you can see APW, air pressurized water. So this comes in white color, and it also contains pressure gauge and hose. This type of fire extinguisher can only be used on Class A fires. Class A fires combustible materials like the trash, wood, paper. When there is a fire on these things, we use water type fire extinguisher. But water type fire extinguisher can never be used on Class B and can never be used on Class C fires, because if we use on Class B flammable liquids, the fire will spread out. It will not extinguish. And the function of this fire extinguisher is to cool down the temperature. So extinction by this process is called as a cooling. So cooling, it provides cooling on the heat. If we use water on Class C fires, on electrical breakers or circuits, so what will happen? You will get electric shock, because water is a good conductor of electricity, and electric current pass through the water, it comes to your body, and it will create electric shock or electrocution. So never use water on electricity. Carbon dioxide fire extinguisher, CO2 fire extinguisher. So the name clearly shows that carbon dioxide is a gas, and this type of fire extinguisher can never be used on Class A fires. CO2 can only be used on Class B flammable liquids and most effectively on Class C fires, electrical equipments. It does not have a pressure gauge, so capacity verified by the weight, and it extinguishes by smothering burning material. So it removes oxygen. When we use carbon dioxide, it displaces oxygen, it heats oxygen, and there will be only carbon dioxide gas. So it create asphyxiation, suffocation, because it remove oxygen from the area. So whenever we are using this carbon dioxide fire extinguisher, we have to keep in mind that there will be a shortage of oxygen where there is a carbon dioxide. So this is the pictorial diagram. You can see the CO2 inside the cylinder body. It does not have a pressure gauge, so capacity is verified by the weight, and it contains hard horn. So it's big in size at the end. The pressure in CO2 extinguisher is so great, bits of dry ice may shoot out of the horn. So it's also a very cold gas. When it comes out in the atmosphere, maybe small pieces of dry ice also comes out because of its pressure and its temperature. Dry chemical, number 3, dry chemical ABC fire extinguisher. So dry chemical fire extinguisher is universally used in all over the world, and mostly you will find this fire extinguisher in your company as well, by his name ABC. So it's very clear that this fire extinguisher is effective on Class A, Class B and Class C fire. So we can use on all classes A, B and C. Extinguishes by smothering burning material. Inside the cylinder body there is a dry powder, a fine powder, and it is pressurized by the nitrogen gas. And we are well familiar that nitrogen is an inert gas. It does not react with any material, any chemical. So it does not react with this powder. And this powder mostly comprises of mono ammonium phosphate, or sometimes we use sodium bicarbonate, potassium bicarbonate in the cylinder bodies. It also contains pressure gauge, and you will see this pressure is always 195 psi according to NFPA 10. It has a pressure of 195, 13 bar mostly. Number 4, Class D extinguishers, combustible metals. We discussed that in Class D we have a combustible metals. So combustible metals like magnesium, lithium, titanium, these are the combustible metals, and if there is a fire on these combustible metals, we use this type of fire extinguisher. Inside the cylinder body there is a sodium chloride, NaCl, which is used as a table salt, used in our cooking purposes. So it is pressurized in the cylinder body, and when it comes out, it extinguishes the fire on fire on the metals, if there is a fire on metals. So it is the hose is large in size. It also contains pressure gauge, and third thing, it is a color in brown. You will always found this in brown color. And this fire extinguisher you cannot commonly found in your organization, but where we have metals like in drilling companies, you will find this fire extinguisher. And mostly uh, when we are exploring metals, we will find this type of fire extinguisher. Kitchen fire extinguisher, as we already discussed, that inside kitchen, when there is a fire on cooking media, when the fire is on cooking oil, if the cooking oil has a fire, we use wet chemical fire extinguisher. So here the features are given. This is silver in color. It also contain gauge, pressure gauge. Nozzle is in big size, large size, and discharge time for this fire extinguisher is 40 seconds. It is maximum effective range we can use from 10 to 12 feet. And the function of this fire extinguisher is to cool down the temperature, and also it produce a foam. When there is a foam, what will happen, the oxygen cannot pass through the foam, so it also remove oxygen as well as also provide cooling. So it's very effective. uh, why it is providing foam? In order to prevent the reignition. So these all type of fire extinguisher we discuss. Now it's very important that how to use a fire extinguisher, or we can say how fire extinguisher work. Because if someone see a fire just started, he can control on fire and he can save the property, or he can protect the human beings. So everyone must understand or must be trained to use a fire extinguisher. Here is a simple method. If you remember the acronym PASS, you can easily use that fire extinguisher, or you can use a fire extinguisher in a proper way. So always remember PASS. For PASS, P for pull the pin. When you have a fire cylinder, you just pull the pin. This will allow you to discharge the extinguisher. Aim at the base of the fire. When you have a nozzle, always aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, not over the flame. If you put the nozzle over the flame, the fire will not be extinguished, and you will see the smoke and other material that will comes to your face, and it will also disturb you. Even it will reduces your visibility. So always aim at the base of the fire in order to hit the fuel. If you aim at the flames, the extinguishing agent will ride through and do no good. Number 3, S. Squeeze the top handle or push the trigger. When you push this trigger, what will happen? The material which is inside the cylinder body, the pressurized material inside the cylinder body, it comes out from the nozzle and it will goes to the fire, and you will see the fire will be extinguished. So remember to squeeze the handle. Sweep from side to side. It is very important that you do not have to put all material in one place. Okay, all extinguishing material, the agent expellent which is inside the cylinder body, you do not have to put in one place. So from left to right, you have to keep your nozzle from left to right or right to left in order to completely extinguish the fire. So you have to do this method until the fire is completely out. So now you can watch the video and you can easily understand how to use a fire extinguisher by a practical method by remembering this acronym PASS. Let's watch.
Pull, aim, squeeze, and sweep. Pull the pin. Aim at the base of the fire, not the flames. Squeeze the trigger. And sweep at the base of the fire. Pull the pin. Aim at the base of the fire, not the flames. Squeeze the trigger and sweep at the base of the fire.
Important things to remember while using a fire extinguisher. I just keep here 5 very important points which you have to always keep in your mind and remember while we are using a fire extinguisher. Number one, check air direction. You have to check air direction and always be opposite to air direction. It means you do not have to stand in parallel to the air, because if you are parallel to the air, the smoke which is lighter than air or powder which is coming out from the fire extinguisher, it will comes to your face, and which will reduce your visibility and even irritate you. So better to remain in opposite of the air direction. Number two, check fire extinguishers on monthly basis. It's also very important. You can also check on regular basis, but at least it should be checked on monthly basis. Number three, avoid wrong practices with the fire extinguisher as it contains high pressure. As I told you that the fire extinguisher, uh, they are highly pressurized. Almost 195 psi pressure is available in the cylinder, that is equal to 13 bar, which is very high. So do not do any wrong practice. So always use fire extinguisher in a proper way. Number four, you have to maintain at least 2 meter distance from the fire. Keep away at least 2 meter from the fire, or if you think fire is large, keep safest distance from the fire. It's depend upon you. And when you are extinguishing the fire, you just gradually and slowly move forward in order to control that fire. The last one, for more detail, you have to follow NFPA 10. In NFPA 10 you will find how to mount in, at what distance we have to mount a fire extinguisher, or what material can be used in fire extinguisher, or how many fire extinguishers are required in any building. So everything, hydrostatic dates, you will also find in NFPA 10. So for more detail you should follow NFPA 10. If you have any suggestion, comments, feedback, please comment, uh, and give me any feedback for my improvement, that we should more improve the basic training that every person must understand about the basics of fire safety. Thank you so much for your time.